Alderman Jeffrey Boyd. Who else?
Circuit Attorney.
I did mention Chris Hinckley, Circuit Attorney's Office. So this is not all the members of the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, but it is most of those members. Not everyone could make it here today. And so we're really excited to have everyone at the table working on these issues. So thanks to each one of you for your efforts, for the time that you've put into this, and thank you in advance for the time you're going to continue to put into making our system a better system. I want to just turn it over for a minute to Judge Mullen. Judge, to say a few words. Judge Mullen is the chairman of the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, so I want to make sure that you can tell us a little bit about it.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning. I want to first thank the Mayor for the efforts that she's put forth in getting this bill passed. The Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, I think, is going to be something that we're going to see make a big difference in our community. For far too long, all the different members of the CJCC, the Circuit Attorney's Office, Public Defender's Office, the jail, the Sheriff's Office, the courts themselves, have sort of been functioning in their own island or in their own silos, I think. And the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council gives them a forum to come together and work more closely in order to share information that they gain in their own departments with the other departments. And I think that's going to help justice reform in the city of St. Louis proceed. I want to thank and congratulate the Board of Aldermen for passing this, especially Alderman Boyd, who worked very hard to make sure this would happen. And I do want to recognize again Debbie Allen, who's here from the Fuse Fellow, who really came in at the ground level back at the end of last summer, met with me. I was excited to see that the city had procured somebody to come and get the CJC formally recognized. Many years ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, the courts tried to get this going. And we sort of got to a crawling stage. We never got up to an up and walking and running stage. And one of the things that was missing was this formality, this bill that actually recognizes and codifies the CJCC. Because with this now, we're all players on an equal level when we come into that room, and the ability that we have to share what we learn in our own departments with the other departments has already made a great difference, I think, in the last 6 months. And I look forward to what it's going to do in the future. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Questions, anyone on Criminal Justice Coordinating Council? We'll do that
Mullen,
first.
Can you talk about what, as you've been meeting over the last 6 months, what has happened, what progress has been made, what the fruits of this have been so far?
Sure. So the CJCC has 3 committees. One of them is the Information Sharing Committee, and the Information Sharing Committee has recognized several things. One is the type of warrants that were put into a system weren't making themselves all the way to the top state system. So with the Highway Patrol, for example, was coming in and figuring out that if somebody was getting pulled over on a dangerous warrant from the city of St. Louis, that information wasn't always being transferred in the right way to the Highway Patrol, which was an issue for officer safety. Another area that we've already kind of tackled is with when a case gets dismissed or gets whether it's dismissed or whether it comes to a final resolution. That information was literally being kind of walked out of the courtroom into 10 different departments. And if one of the departments dropped that information, then somebody was being held too long in the city jail. And that's unacceptable. So what this is going to do is this has already allowed us to make sure that we're not going in 10 different areas, we're going in one area, and it's going up the same system so that everybody is learning the same information.
Judge Mullen, why is it, do you think, that cooperation needed to be legislated formally? You mentioned that the courts had already tried to do something similar to the council. Why is formality so important in this case?
Couple of reasons. One, I think it's really important, and the bill points out that we're going to have an administrative staff to get this done. All of us who are on the CJCC, I'm in the courts. Dale Glass is here from the jail itself. Vernon Betts is at the Sheriff's Department. All of us, every single person who's a member of the CJC also runs their own office, right? So while it's a very important issue that we want to work on at the CJCC, none of us have the time or the resources to devote to making sure that the CJCC is organized correctly and is run correctly. And that's what we've seen when Debbie Allen came in. Debbie Allen came in. That's what we were missing when we tried to do it back in 2015 or 14, whatever year that was. We didn't have somebody who came in who was devoted to making sure, meeting with all three of the committees, meeting with all the players at the CJCC to say, hey, what issues are you having in your department that you think we should bring to the table? And I think that's why it's important that we recognize this in a formal way.
On the floor of the Board of Aldermen, the debate was focused on the fact that this is could be a prosecution-heavy council. You have just one defense voice. How would you respond to some of that criticism? That can you really have reform if it's the same people at the table who have, been in this system for decades?
Boy, I wasn't at the debate, so I don't know, but that surprises me. I wouldn't think of it as being prosecution heavy at all. In fact, I think one of the worries that the Circuit Attorney's Office probably had in the beginning was that it was going to be too defense heavy. I think we're really balanced in what we have here. We have somebody from the prosecutor's office. Kim Gardner is on the board itself, but Chris Hinckley, who's the chief warrant officer, I think Sarah Phillips, who's their victim service person, they've been at just about every meeting, so they certainly have a voice at the meeting. Mary Fox, who's the head of the public defender's office, is at every meeting. She's the head of the Alternative to Incarceration Committee that is a part of the CJCC. So we have, the sheriff, we have the jails themselves here. We have just about every player in the system. So I just don't see it being at all prosecutorial heavy.
Mayor, can you talk about why it was important that this got done and how you think it will help to make safer in general?
I think coordination is always really important, and like in any organization, that's sometimes where we lack, because people are busy doing their own jobs, focusing on their own priorities, and bringing everyone together under one umbrella. I really just think for any system, and this is a system, this is not just the police department or just the prosecutor or just the public defender or just the jailer or just the judges. This is a system that we have here, and so recognizing it as a system, bringing people together, I think will result in better outcomes.
And can you talk about the process of how it will work, how often you'll meet and get together and kind of...
Well, there are 3 standing committees, I believe, in the CJCC. They meet on a regular basis. The CJCC itself is meeting monthly. The larger board is meeting monthly. But it also has, I think, developed some relationships. Anytime you are in a group of people meeting, all working towards one good end, you develop relationships with people, and so then you're able to visit with them on a more informal basis as well.
What's happening in the city that this will kind of address? I think, Judge, you touched on it a little bit about, maybe communication between the agencies, but what are some examples of things that were maybe not happening correctly that this will address?
There were isolated incidents of things that maybe didn't happen correctly, but you put this in place as a preventative measure as well, because we know that all of these departments and agencies within the system have to talk with one another in order to have the best outcomes. So it isn't that what was happening was awful, but can it be better through cooperation, coordination? I know that you all probably see this in your own organizations. Anytime that you have a lot of competing interests, sometimes you don't talk as much as you could or should for a better outcome.
Would this help keep dangerous people off the streets?
I think it will make sure that the right people are incarcerated and and some folks who are not. So it's not just about who will be off the streets. It's about getting the system right so that the decision about who's going to be in one of our jails and when they're going to get out, or if they're going to get out, or under what conditions, all of that it's not just about keeping people off the streets. It's about getting it right.
There's going to be a cost factor here with the executive director. I'm sure systems are going to need upgraded to make sure that they talk to each other. What's going to be the case that you'll be able to make to Alderman Boyd and his colleagues when we look at the budget, when they're looking at the budget next year and going, there's a limited pot of money to play here, and this is another expense that we're going to need to budget for?
Right. Well, I think that most aldermen, I believe it passed Friday 26 to nothing, no votes. And so I think most aldermen they're smart people. They understand that you have to coordinate these things. You've got to be able to talk with one another. And so having an administrative person, of course, there are always demands on money, and there are always priorities, and we'll have to work those out.
What's the budget right now?
Right now, there is no money in the budget this minute. That's because we have Debbie Allen here, who's in the role of coordinating this. And she's a Fuse Fellow, and those Fuse Fellows are privately paid for. So that's, we hope that will go on for a little while, but we know that won't go on forever.
How long will Debbie be with you?
We're figuring that out, at least until October, and we're hopeful that Debbie will continue on for a while after that. We're putting the funding together for that.
Judge Edwards, as Public Safety Director, how do you feel about this? Do you think this is a major step forward?
Thank you very much. This is a monumental accomplishment. For many, many years, our criminal justice continuum have not communicated effectively. What this does is it gives us an opportunity to have communication from the very beginning at the police level all the way up through probation and parole with all of those entities in between, having the ability to receive data, understand what's going on, and being able to make effective and correct decisions with respect to people that are in our system. So I think it is awesome, and I appreciate very much the mayor having the courage way back in 2017 to say this is what should happen in the city of St. Louis. It was the mayor who had the idea after being at the National League of Cities, indicating that this is something that we should do in the city of St. Louis. We were able to go out and get a Fuse Fellow, and Debbie was absolutely the right person to bring into the city of St. Louis in order to help us establish this Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee. Certainly want to thank the judges and the Board of Aldermen and all of the people that are involved along this long continuum of criminal justice.
I think when people think about coming to St. Louis, living in St. Louis, their number one question when they hear something about this is, will this keep me safer?
Absolutely. I think that anytime we have our criminal justice entities communicating and understanding problems along the line, it keeps us safe. Communication, understanding when we have a probationer out that's been revoked, for example, it keeps us safer because now we all know where that person should be or should not be. So absolutely, yes, it keeps us safer.
Anything else?
Thank you all.
Could I ask a heat question?
Yeah, I was just going to say, if everyone's finished with questions on the CJCC, I'm going to let these people go back to work, and I'd love to talk for a minute about heat. Okay?
And some of
Thank you
them
all.
will be able
You
to stay and be available for
Sure.
questions.
Thanks, Dan.
Everyone can open their
You can
hands.
go
I got
out there.
Dr. Douglas here.
Anybody who wants to go to the office. I couldn't pull that out of my head right then.
Again, one of my keys on the desk, just going this way.
We have the doctor here.
Yes, absolutely. Good. Come up here behind me.